Yeah.
That's his favorite. Yes.
Cool. Well, it's great to meet you, and I appreciate you taking a minute out to talk about your life of writing. And
Hmm.
before we get to that point, I want to know, so are you up in the Seattle area?
No, I lived there for a long time.
Okay.
I still have a 206 area code telephone,
Okay.
but I now live in Colorado Springs.
Oh, it's wonderful. When my wife and I got married in 2019 before the world shut down, we were originally going to go to New Orleans because it was jazz, but there was a hurricane brewing. So
Yes.
instead, we had a Bob Ross happy accident honeymoon and went to Manitou Springs. So,
Oh, lovely. That's just right down the road. It's a half a mile from my
yeah.
house.
Yeah. So we were
Yeah.
all up in that area. We went back there last year, so we love that area. It's one of our favorites. So,
Yes, the hiking is incredible. It
yeah.
is the best in the state. Yeah.
Yeah, just looking around is great. So yeah, I'm in Kansas City, Missouri, so it's great to meet you. And
Nice.
I want to begin our conversation with 4 years ago, we were looking at this pandemic, trying to figure out how it was going to affect everything, how long it was going to last. Now that we're out of it, so to speak, how did you survive that time period and how did it change you?
Well, you know, I'm a writer. I write novels.
Yeah.
My husband is a reporter who has worked in his underwear from his desk right behind me here for many years
Yeah.
for the American City Business Journals.
Okay.
So the two of us have been working at home for at least 15 years.
Okay.
And the weird thing is, also, I have celiac disease. So that
Okay.
means we don't go out to eat much. The weird thing that happened to us was our life did not change as much as everyone else's did.
Yeah.
We worked at home. We continued to work at home. We continued to do all of our research, from our desks. So life didn't change much. We didn't go out to eat to start with. So the fact that nobody could go out to eat really didn't change our lives. We always watched movies on in Ben's man cave. So really, life changed very little for us. We
Yeah.
got together with our friends outdoors always, but we've always been outdoors people. And our recreation, our joint recreation, is golf. And the interesting thing about the pandemic was one thing you could do during the pandemic was play golf because nobody wants to get close enough to you to breathe your air because you're swinging a club,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
it worked out just fine. So it was amazing how little it changed our lives. One thing it did affect quite seriously was my novel, The Rebel Nun, was released by Blackstone March 3rd of 2021. So it was right smack in the middle of the pandemic.
Yeah.
And that meant that there was no opportunity for events. I couldn't do book readings. I couldn't visit libraries or bookstores. So it really limited the ability of all of us at that time to do marketing for our new books.
So what did you want to be when you were in the third grade? When you were a child, did you always want to be a writer?
Yeah, pretty much. Yes.
Okay.
By the third grade, I'd already written my first novel. And of course, it did not survive. I don't know where it went, but it was a biography of my dog, our dog, family dog.
Okay. Yeah.
And I had decided I wanted to be a novelist. When in the third grade, we were assigned a project, we had to write to one of our favorite authors. And I wrote to a woman, Sydney Taylor. I thought it was a man when I wrote the letter, but she corrected me in her response. And I got a letter back. I think I was the only one in the class that did. And I got this beautiful black and white photo of her. And I looked at that and I said, I want to be her when I grow up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this was third grade and it never left me. I had a short flirtation with being a lawyer when I was like a junior in high school. And in order to make money, I went immediately into journalism after college or during college, and did not really get a chance to live my dream until I guess it was 2013 when I quit my jobs and started writing novels.
So, who's been a hero for you, an inspiration in your life?
Who's been a hero? I think. Probably Gil Godwin. Um, because I think, Gil Godwin has survived and has persisted, and she has her fans who will never leave her, even though she's never, a New York Times bestseller. Um, and the perseverance of that kind of a writer who has steadfast fans and yet never becomes, Stephen King or Nora Roberts or whatever. To me, that's an inspiration.
So if you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now that you find fascinating, who would it be? Who would you love to meet and talk to?
Probably Barack Obama.
Yeah, I'd join you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I just think he's so smart,
yeah.
and has such a level head on his shoulders. And I just like to talk to him about where we are today in this world. I think I would learn a lot from.
I listened to Michelle Obama's book, and
Yeah.
she kind of gave me an insight into where we are right now. I had no idea. Now she's not going to run. I can tell you
No.
that. They're
No.
done. But yeah, it's weird how civil things were when he was running, especially being the first black candidate and becoming the first two-term president, and how clownery everything has become these days.
The
How
chaos. Yes. The
it's
chaos.
insane. It,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
and we all know why, but it's just totally unfortunate that we've descended to this point because it's unnecessary. Now, most people have always rated our Congress with very low numbers, no matter who's in office. So we do need to have things change, but I don't think it needs to implode and turn into a big clown game to do that.
No, no, I don't think we need to destroy our constitution in order
No.
to facilitate a cult, I would call it.
Yeah.
You know, and the sort of fake populism that has arisen in the country. It's not really so much a situation where people are following some populist message as much as people are clinging to their prejudices
Yep.
and they want to express those. That's what I hear. I don't hear people calling for equality. I don't hear people calling for, we must solve this homeless problem. I don't hear that. That would be a populist message, and we don't seem to be getting that. Instead, what we get is this loud, loud expression of prejudice.
Yeah. So, what is your daily motivation to wake up and to write and to create this world and to share your ideas with readers? What is that motivation for you every day?
I have to say, it's just stories in my head that have to get out. And my head will explode if I don't sit down and write them. Um, I know that sounds sort of silly in a way, but it's truly, that's what it is. It's just a desire to write stories. I had really wonderful training as a journalist. I worked for 25 years as a journalist. Um, and that taught me to never fear the blank screen,
Yeah.
the blank page, they used to call it. Now it's a blank screen. I do not fear the blank screen. I can't wait to fill it, actually.
Yeah.
Um, I've got things I want to say. Uh, so I guess that is probably the simplest way to put it. I just can't wait to get up and write another story, write another sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the best advice you've ever gotten?
About writing or about life?
Just in general, I think the Venn diagram can bleed into itself.
Okay, I like that. Um, Let me see. The best advice I ever got was, oh, this was it, that happiness is a choice.
Yeah.
That's the best advice I ever got. And I don't remember who said it or where it came from. But then I started looking around at people whose situations, like the heroine in my latest book, The Candlemaker's Woman, people in terrible situations who have decided to still hold up the light and believe and have hope and push forward, and they've decided to be happy because happiness is sort of a recent construct. I
Yeah.
don't think anybody in the Middle Ages was thinking, am I happy or not?
Yeah.
It just wasn't part of their 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 thought process, their gestalt. So it's a fairly recent thing. And I think it's fairly recent, maybe the last 4 or 5 centuries, that we've been able to actually seek happiness, pursue, as the Constitution or the
Yeah.
Declaration said, pursue happiness. So I think that, that has been probably the thing that changed my life more than anything, was deciding that I could be happy if I decided to be.
So what's your favorite fan letter so far?
Oh, that's a good question. The favorite fan letter. Usually, it has been when someone has studied the period that I write, which is the early Middle Ages, late antiquity, and writes to me and says, "I'm so glad somebody wrote about this. I'm so glad that somebody sees other than dark in the Dark Ages." And I received a letter shortly after The Rebel Nun came out that expressed that. At the same time, I got a letter from, or I should say, a comment from someone who told me I didn't have enough adjectives and adverbs in the book. And as you know, good writers are always trying to strip out the adjectives and
Yeah,
adverbs and create good verbs and good nouns. You don't depend on adjectives and adverbs to carry the story. So I thought that was hilarious. That's the funniest one I ever got.
that's great.
Yeah.
So if you have a dream tonight and you run into the 18-year-old version of you and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the life you've led, the wisdom you've gained, what advice would you impart on that young version? And would that version of you listen?
Oh, I think she probably wouldn't listen. I think she was too headstrong and really stupid when it comes right down to it. Um, but what I would say to her is, you want to write novels, pick yourself up, get to New York City, and get involved in the publishing industry now. Don't wait until you're 59 years old to write your first novel, your first published novel. Go do it now, even though it's going to mean you live badly, poorly. You're not going to have any money. You're going to have a terrible boss, like the Deborah Warriors Prada sort of thing. Um, but I should have done it. I should have done it. I would have enjoyed that. I don't know. You don't know what would have happened. I could have, been killed in a subway. Um, but I think that would have been what I would tell myself.
So, of all of these things that you've done and evolved to in your life, what are you the proudest of?
Probably my last two novels.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like I've gotten to a place where I am patient enough and a perfectionist enough to my best, write at my best. And, it's just kind of sad that it took me this long. That's kind of why I think if I started at 18, it wouldn't have taken me this long.
Right.
But you have to, you don't cut most people. Certainly, there are debut novelists who come out with blockbusters, so not bestsellers. But for most of us, I think it takes a lot of time before you write your best novel. I was just reading a novel written by Maggie O'Farrell, who is one of my favorite authors. She wrote Hamnet and A Marriage Portrait. Wonderful, wonderful historical fiction. But I've just been reading a book that she wrote in 2004, and you can see her promise, but it's not nearly the book that
Yeah.
Hamnet
Yeah.
was. She learned a lot, over the past 20 years, and it shows.
So, of all of the things that everybody has a perception of who they think you are, family, friends, all of your readers, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm a late bloomer. I think I'm a fairly happy person for whom, I think they probably think that I'm aloof because my family was never a close family. I had four siblings, have three left. Um, and we never really learned or were encouraged to hang out with each other or be each other's friends. And I think that affected my whole life in that have many I have a few very close friends. I have many acquaintances, but I'm not a joiner, and I'm not really a tremendously social person. In fact, I probably have some real deficits in terms of my social skills. Um, so I think they would see me as an aloof um, person, uh, not very warm, but I see myself as focused, happy, busy, married for 35 years. That's something. Um, and I would not say I call myself successful yet,
Yeah,
but I would say I'm not done trying.
there you go. So a time machine pulls up in front of your house when we get off this call. You can go anywhere in human history and see one event with your own eyes. Where are you going?
Oh, that's a good question. Where do you come up with these? This is really a good question. Where would I go to see something? Um, I'm going to think I want it to be a happy something. And not a tragic something. So even though I would love to go and watch the barbarians come over the frozen Rhine River in 406 AD, I would love to see that. I don't think it would be a very pleasant sight. So if I were to pick something happy, I guess this might be it. You know, we mentioned it earlier. I would be at Obama's inauguration
Yeah,
ball, at the
yeah,
ball.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
where it would be. That would be fun. First of all, you get to dress up and look
Yeah,
your best,
yeah,
and get to be in. You get to watch one of the most amazing things that's ever happened in our country.
absolutely. No, that would be magnanimous. So one of the reasons why I come up with some of these questions, partly when I was in my 20s, we used to sit around the local coffee shop and we'd have coffee and smoke and just talk and do our thing. And at one point, a story came up. One of our favorite authors at that time was Kurt Vonnegut. And there was a story about how a fan went up to his house in Cape Cod and just arrived at his doorstep. So we all kind of thought, well, why don't we do that? And just arrive on his doorstep with a pack of Lucky Strikes and coffee for a week, and we'll see what we can do. But we wanted to come up with really good questions. So we really tried to hammer out the best questions that we could find. And that's always reverberated in my brain. Just like, what would be the best possible questions that you could come up with? Because you got to be impactful. If you're arriving on Kurt's doorstep, you better be ready to go. You better
Yeah,
not be
you better
stammering.
not sit there with Pollyanna questions
That's right. Because he,
and yeah, vapid questions. Yeah,
yeah,
you're right.
yeah,
Absolutely. So have you ever written? Do you write?
yeah. I've been writing my whole life. I've written a combination of, short stories, and I've always done poetry. I try to do that North American Novel Month in November, and I've had a lot of fun with that. And I've written about 3 or 4 novels with that.
Yeah,
Um,
NaNoWriMo. Yeah.
yeah.
NaNoWriMo. Yeah. I did it one year, but um, the thing there is that you're plowing forward constantly.
Always.
Yeah, you're not moving, you're not going back and editing or rewriting and that
No.
sort of thing. And I did it, and I think I wrote 60,000 words. I But what it didn't fit my style because
Yeah.
when I write is at the two. You know, I've written it. I write as much as 5,000 words a day,
Yeah.
sometimes only 1,200 words a day. But
Yeah.
the first thing I do the next day is I go back and read what I wrote the day before.
Yeah.
And that helps me keep the momentum
Yep.
going. And it
Yep.
also gives me a chance to fix things right away that aren't working.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. Mine is speech to text, so I would do that on the way to work and I would just hammer it out. So I'm in the car anyways. Why not maximize two birds with one stone? But
Yeah.
yeah, if I had my druthers when I used to have time to write, that's what I would do would be rather, uh be my own editor and just kind of stay on track. So, speaking of writing, if anyone wants to pick up your book, your latest book, pick up any of your other books, reach out, learn more about you, what's the best way to do that?
Well, marjcharlier.com is my website. So it's my name.com
Yeah.
is my website. So there they can find my latest book and my other books. All my other books are in there. And my blog is there, so they can read what I'm thinking about every month or 2 weeks whenever I get around to doing it. Um, and so that's how they do it.
Okay. Marj, this has been wonderful. Thank you. It's so great to see people get their dreams. I can tell you.